Hello, I'm Laura Boyd and welcome to the latest episode of our Beatson Cancer Charity podcast, Beatson Talks, where today I am delighted to be joined by an incredibly inspirational couple who have raised thousands of pounds for charity and have an amazing story to tell. Don and Rachel McKie, thank you so much for joining me today. Lovely to see you both glowing in your yellow Beatson t-shirts and matching Beatson bracelets. There you are, on brand, fully the two of you. How are you doing, first of all?
Thanks for having us, first of all. And I'm really quite excited to be doing something like this, you know, just to try and raise awareness, for taking part and being a volunteer in the Beatson, this amazing charity that has meant so much to us for a long time in our lives.
Well, if you don't mind, can you take me back, Dawn, and tell me why the Beatson has become such a big part of your life?
Well, back when our son Graham was diagnosed, it was the old Beatson at that point in the Western Infirmary. And it was such a terrible place, to go at that time. It was very run down and there's no privacy but then we were, just after Graham passed, we were invited along. The new Beatson was being built at the time, and we were invited along an opening, because we raised, right after Graham's death, we started to raise money in his, it was about £8,000, I think, the first time around.
Seven.
Well, I was actually
Rachel, I'll keep you right there.
7,000, and we raised a cheque, and it was presented to the Beatson at the time for a piece of equipment which was going into the Beatson Institute over at Garscooby Estate. So that's our first step towards that, and ever since then, the Beatson has been, a place where it's there and it's doing some marvellous work. And we think back in the times when Graham was diagnosed and went to the old Beatson, and the big steps along the way.
And how it's come.
How it's now today.
Well, Rachel, do you mind, could you tell us a bit about Graham and what he was like, first of all? I see this you've got a lovely book there in memory of him. What a smile he's got there.
A smile,
a very, very handsome young man, and he was sadly taken from us too soon. So can you tell me a little bit about his diagnosis?
Well, Graham was born on the 18th of September 1973, and just a bright, bubbly little boy. Loved cars, loved Lego, loved life, loved music. And his uncle John, Don's brother, he worked for Ford's, and he brought up the first car with the speaking lady that says, "Put your seatbelts on." And Graham always said, "Uncle John, I'm going to build cars." Oh. But he didn't quite build cars, but he fixed cars. He went to Douglas Academy, where we lived in Mulgai. And he just came in one day and he went, "Mum, I'm going to be a motor mechanic." And we went, "Right, you're going to build cars?" He went, "Well, I'm going to fix cars." So he did. He went on to that, and then I think he was there many, many years, and then he actually graduated to become a Volvo technician.
Right.
So, and then he got married in 2003 to lovely Fiona, and but within 2.5 years he was diagnosed. He was fit, healthy, five-a-side football, loved music, loved church activities, YF, loads and loads of friends, loved holidays. And then all of a sudden everything changed. Sickness and headaches. We had just had our first grandchild in the August. We were all together in the Christmas of 2005. And then he went out to have dinner with his in-laws and his wife. And then a few days after that, it was like Boxing Day, and a couple of days after that, sickness and headaches. Went to hospital, was diagnosed with migraine. So within 5 days, he was in 2 hospitals with 3 doctors, and all they done was change the medication. Gosh. Came back to our old doctor in Curzon House in Mulgai, and he knew there was something wrong. So he went up to the Old Western, and he was admitted. And the following day, we'd found tests that he needed to be immediately changed to the Southern General, like the old Southern. And he was. And then they had to do major surgery on the Friday morning just to save his life.
Yeah.
And they took a biopsy. And then, that was on the 5th of January. And then on the 11th, we were asked to be with him. And his in-laws were with him. And he was diagnosed with a glioblastoma, grade 4, inoperable, incurable brain tumour.
My goodness.
And had we anything kind of coming later on in that year, went, yes, our daughter's been married. They said, I think we had to bring things forward. They never gave him a time limit, but at the same time, they knew it was severe. So he went through major surgery, came home, and then after that, it was really just hospital visits. He never worked again. He never drove again, which for a Volvo mechanic,
someone
just
who loved
driving
cars.
was his life. But he was incredible. He was amazing. He was brave. He was courageous. And we're looking at a 32-year-old son who, in many ways, your boy's your boy.
Yeah, but they're always your baby.
This was a man that faced death because he'd been given a terminal diagnosis. And we actually went with what he wanted to do. So in many ways, it was a different journey we started on. And then he went through amazing treatments, but there was never going to be a cure.
Yeah.
And there was Professor Roy Rampling over at the old Southern and Dr. Alan James. They were incredible. And all the staff that looked after him. And Graham couldn't thank them enough. Yeah. But there came a time where they said, we can't do any more for you. And unfortunately, a diagnosis of a second tumour has started. And he was told he would maybe have about 3 months.
Right.
And he had less than 3 weeks.
Oh, my goodness.
So our first grandson, Jack, was born on the 8th of August on the 2005. So we went in to live with Graham in the old Southern. In fact, he was in a lung cancer ward because they didn't have a room for him. They didn't have room because he didn't need an operation, so they couldn't move him to another part of the hospital. Yeah. But he was in the ward, and then there was a little room off of that, so they moved him into that. So his wife and Don and I, we went in and we lived with him because he was so near death then. Yeah. But he survived until the 11th of August. But on the 8th, Jack was 1. And Jack walked across the floor and Graham smiling, giving him the thumbs up, you know. And then Graham died 3 days after that.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm
so
life
sorry.
Totally changed for us. You know,
in a relatively short time, it just...
7 months.
Yes, 7 months, yeah.
And as you say, such a young, fit and healthy man. I can't even imagine how you begin to pick up your life again as parents, as a wife, as a family. It must have been horrendous. But you two, out of the worst situation, have thrown yourself into fundraising for 2 charities, but the Beatson being one of them.
Yes.
And you have raised an incredible amount of money. Tell me, first of all, did that give you comfort, or where did that drive to do that come from?
I believe we needed to do something practical as well as raise awareness.
Yes.
You know, it was more to raise awareness than probably raising money at the time. Although obviously money helps, but at the same time, people don't realise how devastating a brain tumour can be. You know, and there's so little funding for that. And I know that we do are part of the two charities, as you said, Beatson and Brain Tumour Research. But over the years, we've tried to be aware, make people aware of how devastating these, the brain tumour is and can be for families.
The statistics are that it's the biggest cancer killer of children and under 40s. Yeah. And there is no cure. There is definitely better treatments now and definitely ways forward. And even just taking care of the patient. Because Graham, as you say, was dealt with in the old Beatson, the old Western, and there was nothing. There was really nothing for him to, well, you need to leave your work, but there was nothing
support,
from that,
really.
no support.
Real support.
Yeah.
And the fact that nowadays they focus on an awful lot of that.
Yeah.
And they also help families, because it's not just like Graham was going through it, and his wife and his in-laws and all of us. But it was such a devastating time for all of it. We'd had a new grandchild. We were going to have a new son-in-law at the wedding. Sharon brought her wedding forward, and they were married in Auchendennan House, which was just magical.
And did Graham make it to the wedding? Oh,
He became their usher.
Oh.
But sadly, by that time, the treatments had taken their toll. There's photographs in the book. He had become really, really massive.
Yeah.
Because he'd lost his hair. We were having a photo shoot from Norma Ann's in the town, and the night before it, he said, "Mum, my hair has fallen out." Oh. And I went, "Well, I've got some of it in the loft. I said, keep me some of that." But by the following day, you actually saw what treatments did, you know, and that was horrendous, because he had surgery in the top of his head. He had scars. The radiation treatment was that he had part hair and part not. And for Graham, who always loved his hair, you know, and then he had the Beckham look with the two-tone, which I did for him. And, you know, he said, "Don't you dare tell any of my friends." But they all thought it was amazing. But, you know, from something like that, even like that, nothing kept him down. He said, "Mum, it's only here." So we went through our photo shoot, and we were so thankful for that, because photographs are something I treasure. And I used to say to our 3 children, "It's the only thing you've got left. Whenever we go, you'll be able to look back in all the photographs." Now, unfortunately, it's us that's got the photographs, and we haven't got him, you know.
You've done amazing things.
Yeah, I think probably our faith has played a big part in it, you know, and Graham had a strong faith too. And probably that has held us in good stead, and, you know, and the support of family, friends, church friends and prayer, it brings us through dark times. And there's been dark times, but there's always been light, and there's always been hope.
I can only imagine. And the two of you have given a lot of hope and a lot of help to other people. So. And I've met other families, you know, people with Jack's Dane and Callum's Cabin, other families who have lost their children. And the parents have, you know, thrown themselves into doing incredible things for charity like you two have. How much of a comfort and a help has it been being involved with the Beatson?
I really enjoy using skills I've learned, you know, in the Beatson itself, and meeting all these lovely people in the Beatson. I volunteer on a Friday, normally at the café. Back in just before COVID, I went to a barista course. Oh,
you can do the fancy coffees.
I went to a barista course, right, through the church. It was actually, we had a cafe, you know, in the church. But then COVID came along, and that I had to stop. But I had a certificate of it, having done the barista. And I thought, I've done this course, and I said, but nowhere to use it. And there was a friend in the church, actually, who does the cafe on I think it's a Tuesday now he does. And he said to me, because he was treated at the Beatson as well for cancer, and I knew he helped in the Beatson, so I approached him and said, "Look," I said, "how do you go about, you know, volunteering?" Because I thought I would like to give something back, you know, to the Beatson. So I contacted Marlon at the Beatson, and we both went down, and you know, a wee chat with Marlon. She showed us around the place, and I told her about the skill. She said, "Oh, great stuff! You can do the coffees." I said, "Just let yourself." She said, "You can do the fancy coffees."
Well, I know where I'm coming next time on a Friday. I'm in.
So yes, it was. It was a skill I obviously picked up and learned, and I thought, well, there's a place I can use it. And I enjoy being there, and it's giving something back to the Beatson itself, because I know that my daughter, you know, she attended the Beatson, and and every time you hear, you know, that bell ringing, you know, it just hits you.
Well, I was going to say, because you know, that is such an emotional time anyway. But for you guys to be in there and to have lost someone to cancer and then to hear others coming through that, how is that? How do you cope with that?
Well, as Rachel said, it's through our faith, I think, as well. Some faith, and we know that there's a reason for everything.
Yeah.
So that's what she was going.
Yeah. Another thing, the thing that I'm a trainee barista.
Oh, you're oh my
I don't go as often because I have grandsons that they live 6 doors along from us, so I tend to be grand at lunchtime. And I'd always say to Dawn, we're not joined at the hip, so we do things different. But another thing that I find is just lovely as a mum, maybe, I don't know, maybe it's a female thing, I don't know, but when you look at someone who has dealt with cancer and they are so positive, and we have known, because Dawn's sister's daughter, Kirsten, she was dealing with breast cancer throughout her life, and when Graham died in the October, Kirsten was diagnosed with terminal cancer, her third dose. Now, she was just over 40, and we had all celebrated his dad's 70th, and she didn't let any of the family know until later on, because we were all grieving Graham. Yeah. But then she knew that her time was terminal. And then she died the following June. Oh my goodness! And then his dad died on the November. He was taken into hospital and unfortunately took a hospital bug. So within that period, we had lost Graham, we had lost Kirsten to breast cancer, and then we had lost your dad. And in between that, a few years after Graham had died, Dawn's nephew had contacted him and said, Uncle Donald, I don't know how I'm going to tell you, he says, but my daughter Claire has been diagnosed with a brain tumour. Now, she was a beautician and they lived through in Haddington. Yes. But Claire, she was having problems with her eyes, and her dad says, right, need to go to the optician. But she said, Dad, I'm a beautician, glasses. She went to the optician and he referred her straight to the hospital. She was taken in and she had major surgery. Different type of tumour from Graham, 90% removed. And it wasn't until 7 years later when she fell pregnant. And then she had a wee prem baby, but she only had 14 months after that, and then she died. Oh my gosh. And Sophie's now, she's 10 now. And they were over Haddington, and Roger Daltrey had opened up the teen cancer ward. Yeah. So they had raised thousands and thousands, and we helped support them too. And they said, we can't do what you're doing, but they fully support us and all of, Susan, Claire's mum.
And, so you mentioned as well your daughter was also diagnosed with cancer too. Does she attend the Beatson?
Yes. Our youngest daughter, Jacqueline, she won't mind me saying, I'm sure she's 45 this year. And Sharon, our older chicken. I know. Jacqueline, she has 4 boys. As I say, she had Jack just months before Graham was diagnosed, and then a year, 3 days after he died, and then she had Scott, who's over 16 now and taller than his papa, and Chris, who's 13, and Cal, who's 9. But 4 years ago, she just developed this lump. She went to see about it. And from that, she was diagnosed with thyroid cancer. But at the same time, someone noticed that she had a mole. So she was referred to another hospital. So the mole became melanoma. So not only was she dealing with half of thyroid, and then she was told she would be kept an eye on. But within the year, she had to go and have the other half thyroid had become cancerous as well. So she's been attending the Beatson again, giving something back. And she works, she used to work in Dobbies in Mulgai for 10 years, and she works in Murdoch Care Home now, taking care of about 3 or 4 dear old ladies from her old church. And she says, Mum, this is such a rewarding job. And she's so bright, she's so bubbly, but she lives with the fact that she's dealing with cancer. And that's 2 of her 3 children, that again were inspired by her, because she was the one, between her and Sharon, they kept us going.
Yes.
Don was a driving instructor, and he didn't want to go back to work after Graham died. And Graham had said during his illness, he went, Dad, you stick at it, he said, because you taught him and you taught his girls.
And the cars connection as well.
Yes.
And yeah.
So from that, we live with the fact that we know that none of us know what kind of a time we have.
Yes.
But at the same time, whatever time we have, we really need to make it count.
Yeah.
You know, and giving it back
you
really
have.
encourages her.
Tell me how much money you've raised for the Beatson, because it's an incredible amount.
Well, we started off back, as I say, just after Graham passed, and we started with this. It was a fundraiser at the church, and it was
a coffee morning.
It's a coffee morning and Tumour, and
and so a silent auction.
Silent auction. It was, that's right, silent auction, and they say we raised
that day. We raised £7,000
on that one day,
yes.
and from there, that was a brain tumour research at the time, and from there, over the years we've done it's awareness and obviously bucket collection mainly in our local vicinities and dobies and.
We've never done anything big. We really were just into bucket collecting.
Just over the years, and started to, and we started off with the brain tumour. It was brain tumour research at the time, and then we went to the brain tumour charity. Now I can't remember why we went to the tumour charity, but it was through the. There was
a couple. Yes, there was a couple whose daughter. She was Samantha Dixon, and their 14-year-old daughter became very ill very quickly, sickness, headaches, was diagnosed with terminal cancer. So we felt we need empathy. We need parents that realise the loss of a child through a brain tumour, because it's devastating to know that your child is going to die. So we went with the brain tumour charity, and they helped us in many ways. They felt, they always kept in touch with us, and then they retired probably over a year ago. But our daughter Sharon says to us last year, she says, Mum, if you heard what's happening in Scotland, we have prayed for 18 and a half years. We always had to go down south or whatever, Chester or down London way, whatever, and we thought, we don't want to be spending silly money to go to something when it should be happening in Scotland. So the launch of it was a centre of excellence between the Glasgow University and Edinburgh University. Now, about 14 years ago at the Beatson Institute, we met a chap called Professor Anthony Chalmers, and they showed us around the lab and things like that, and we were shown where our fundraising money goes. And he says, I was terribly sad to hear of your son. He says, glioblastoma is something I would like to look into. Were we amazed when we were introduced to him on the 28th of this year? He's spearheading it.
Wow.
Professor Anthony Chalmers and Professor Steve Pollard from Edinburgh. And we went to a talk, and Glenn Campbell was there and Theo Burrow was there, who are living with terminal diagnosis of brain tumours. And from that, we've been inspired, haven't we? Because maybe we retire now and just do quiet things. A friend of Graham's who's in the Lyric Club, Morven, she said, we're putting on Les Mis in the King's Theatre. Would you like to bucket collect? We went, yes. 3 members of the ensemble, they called themselves, had family that were dealing with brain tumours.
Gosh, 3 members.
So, so that was the charity we raised. And again, Bearsen and Mulgai, the local paper, they've been wonderful in helping us raise awareness. Community magazine. And we now have Marie McNair, the MSP. She's put a motion forward for just to raise awareness, and she's also great at supporting the Beatson. She's been down in the village, come down in the village on Saturday. So a motion is put forward for Graham, for Graham's legacy. And we're at Holyrood again on Thursday to speak to all the other MPs and say, please support us between the Beatson, between the brain tumour research. Monies need to increase. So as other families, really in many ways, they will suffer. But to know that there's more hope, they're not by a cure at the moment, but please,
but they're moving
in the future.
they're moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
Has all of this helped you guys cope? and get through, because I can see you're so close. You're sitting there holding hands, which is just gorgeous.
It's still after, was it?
53 years on the 23rd. It's our
an
wedding
inspiration
anniversary.
for us all.
It's our wedding anniversary.
Still,
I mean, it just certainly by planning things ahead and doing things for Graham's legacy.
Yeah.
And this is what we do it for. It's not for ourselves. It's not for any other. I mean, it's for Graham and also for the rest of our family that we're doing it for. And to raise awareness for others out there that are going through similar situations as we're going through. And just it helps it. That's what we're looking for.
Amazing.
It really does. Because, I mean, one of the things that no parent wants to do is bury their child.
Yeah.
And we've had that experience. But at the same time, it's just, again, so much hope, so much light, so much strength. And again, there's times when we're, I'm either down and he picks me up, or he's down and I pick him up. And then our girls are there. Our 4 grandsons, are just incredible. So we're known as the Clan McKie. So anything we do, and our older daughter Sharon, she's done the kilt walk, her and her friends, and they call themselves Team Braveheart, because Graham loved the theme of Braveheart, and it was part of his wedding.
Yeah.
But another strange thing was he'd chosen for his their wedding dance. It was the Moulin Rouge, I Will Love You Until My Dying Day, Come With Me. And then 2.5 years later, he's diagnosed. He spent his 3rd wedding anniversary, 6th of June, in hospital. Blood clots in both lungs, and they didn't expect him to survive. But he was a fighter, and he got out of hospital on the 7th. That was his 3rd wedding anniversary. So, and that tune, whenever we hear that tune coming on and Braveheart coming on, I think, he's my Braveheart. That's my boy, And but again, I think it's the fact that none of us know how long we've got. You never can tell. I mean, with Jacqueline, we don't know. I think in many ways we have to accept that every day is a blessing.
Yeah.
And every day, if we continue to be as strong as what we are, in our ages now, which are getting on.
Never.
But if we can do as much as we can for as long as we can, I think that would keep us going.
You are incredible, both of you, and it's so lovely to hear the story of Graham, and you speak so passionately about him. He sounds amazing, and what an amazing thing to do to keep his legacy and his memory alive, which is so lovely as well. And I know you don't do it for recognition or anything like that, but you did have a lovely little moment where you were rightfully recognised because you got to get your glad rags on and go meet someone rather special. So tell us about this.
Well, it all came about actually when a friend of mine asked if it's okay for this other friend to give this friend our details of address, telephone number, etc. I said, I didn't think anything about it. He says, yes, fine. Maybe this person was wanting to get back in touch with us after a long time. And this person was Ian Dixon, who was one of the co-founders of the Beatson's Friends. And he put her name forward to be invited to the garden party at Holyrood House, Holyrood Palace, just 1st of July there. So this invitation came through the post anyway, and opened it and said, "Oh, there's an invitation for I wonder who puts that through." So going back, I thought, yes, it must have been Ian, because otherwise I knew he was a lieutenant. What was his name? What's his title again? It's like
the Lord Lieutenant
of Dumbartonshire at the time, and he just retired from that post. But he was, along with another friend of his, were co-founders of the Beatson charity. But I didn't know that at the time.
No.
And it came through, and so I phoned him up. I said, Ian, I said, I haven't seen him for a long time, but did you put his name through? He said, yes, he did. I said, can I ask you why he said, well, Ian and I go back to the 1960s. And him and I were in the BB together, Boys Brigade together. And unknown to me, he sort of followed our progress through the years. I mean, he lives in the same village as us, but we don't meet each other too often. In fact, lost touch for quite a long number of years. But he and I weren't close friends, I would say, but we were friendly. We knew each other. We lived fairly close to each other back in the 60s. And I said to Ian, I said, why did you put a name forwards for the garden party? He said, well, I was in awe of you back in the day, in 1966, I think it was. Yes, it was 1966. He said, you're the first person that I knew and that got the Duke of Edinburgh's Gold Award. I said, all right. I said, but if you know me, what have you done over the years? You know, when he started off the Beatson friends and everything else, and all that was done for charity over the years. But unknown to me, he's gone back even further than that. You know, when he was a teenager himself. I said, so I was able to tell that story when we went to the garden party to the King.
I mean, just name drop that in there.
Because I said to well, we were invited to the garden party.
Yes, and you look, we can see pictures here. You look beautiful. You scrubbed up very well there.
Yeah, and that was
that was surreal.
That was it was just a moment that you say we won't forget, because it was. We actually got, I mean, out of 8,000 people at that garden party, we actually got to meet the King. And because we had the story of our story.
You got to tell him about
You got to tell about the story.
Yeah.
Didn't tell him directly to start with. You had to tell somebody else who told somebody else and went down the line. And also, when he did come to meet us face to face, obviously, Rachel told him about the charity. And he said that, and he told him about Graham himself, Graham. He said, that's a bare thing, that was a...
Yes, you told him about meeting his father.
Yes, and I said to him, I was in this place 59 years ago, almost to the day, and your father presented me with the Duke of Edinburgh's Gold Award certificate and badge. I said, oh, that's a great achievement, he says. I only got the silver.
Oh, did he?
And I said,
it was very hard.
I only got the silver until they shipped me off to Australia.
Oh.
So, so it was very, very charming, very witty as well. I mean, he sort of laughed at that, and, he just said, when he heard about the charity as well, he said, well, he asked about the charity, and he said wishes as well, and it was eye to eye. It was very, very
a special moment.
Special, very, very, very special.
It was very special. Yes, it was very, very charming, and he tipped his hat to me, And I said, well, we're actually here for another reason. I said, our son died of a brain tumour, and he just gently touched my arm, and he said, that's hard to bear. I said, but we're here representing the brain tumour research. And how is the charity doing? I says, it's doing well. I says, it could be doing better. He said, but I personally want to wish you both well. He says, and for your charity.
Aww.
And he says, now, I hope you don't mind. He said, but I've got a few other folks to speak to. Lovely to meet you. Aww. And I says to Don, I says, one of the things that really, really struck me was the fact is that it was eye-to-eye contact.
Yeah.
And it was a simple reason that he was talking to me and not looking at 8,000 people plus that were there, and that he was interested in what I had to say because I felt he listened. So he reacted to whatever Don said about his dad, and that was fine. Then he came to me, and it was just lovely. And I kind of thought his mum has probably said, when you speak to someone, you look at them and you make them feel as if you're interested in what they're saying to you. And you reply to that so that they know that you have listened to them. And I says to Don, that's something that'll live with me. Because my mum and dad used to kind of say, speak to someone, you look at them.
Yeah.
And it was very charming.
He was brought up very well.
He was. But I think it was just built in with him too.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've seen him many times on the television. One of the things that was incredible was, we've always heard the national anthem, but see when the Royal Band have come up and they're playing it, and you know that they're in, we never saw them to start with, you know, and they're in the area, and it was just incredible.
Moment.
It was that like, pinch me, you know, did this really happen? And it did. So I don't know where we go from now.
Oh, I know, my goodness. What an honour. But very, very well deserved. What do you think your Graham would have thought of you both there in that royal moment?
Graham would have said, I would have thought you would have done something. Knowing you, because Graham used to kind of say, he would come to us, you know, and he'd maybe say, Mum, I don't know how to deal with this, or I don't know how to do it. When he became ill, he came back to us and he said, I need your help, you know. And we went to the hospitals with him, we went to the doctor with him. And then I think it's maybe just reassurance as parents and whatever. So, and even for his wedding, there was a terrible mix-up with his wedding. And we went to it was then at the Grosvenor, and I went to speak to the manager. He said, Mum, you need to do something, because Fiona's so upset. And we went, right. So we went to speak to the manager. So we ended up, rather than not having just a little room, they gave him the ambassador suite. So he didn't know, and Fiona didn't know anything about it. So when it was retiring time, they went up. He couldn't believe it. He went, oh, trust you, Mum. And during Graham's illness, and when he was well after his treatments, we were given a 4-figure sum from family and friends. It would be like make a wish. So we would say to him, we really want to do something special. So one of the places that we went back to the Grosvenor Hotel, and believe it or not, the chap who was running it at the time, his name was Donald Graham.
Oh,
his name's Donald and Graham. And he said, we told him the situation, and they gave him the weekend in the ambassador suite.
Oh, lovely.
As just a little gift.
Yeah.
And we went to One Devonshire Gardens, and they gave us a fraction of the bill.
Yeah.
We'd done certain things that just allowed him
memories. Make memories.
To make, and to have photographs and to just say, well, you are special.
Yeah.
You know, but time ran out too quickly, didn't it? You know, and we were carried along. My expression was, a friend of ours who Mum lived with cancer, and she says it was like being on a fast train and you couldn't get off.
Yeah.
You didn't want to get off because you'd be leaving the person.
Yeah.
You couldn't breathe. And I said to Donya, I can't breathe properly. Yeah. And there's certain times of the year when we have events, like coming up for Graham's birthday, the 18th, our anniversary, the 23rd, the 11th of August, we always do something special. You know, we have always gone somewhere. We have, at the time when it was right to do so, like balloons off. Now we use sparklers. He loves sparklers, hated fireworks, loves sparklers. So we do tributes to him, which is just our time on the 11th. Yeah. And we have special meals, we have fun times, we bring out games, and our two girls are so competitive when you bring out the game of life or different things. So these are little things that we sit back as parents, and you're watching your grown-up children and their children saying, Mummy's cheating. No, you don't do that. So we're inspired by the strength of our girls and their partners and our 4 grandsons. And people like yourself who are interested in our story, Graham's legacy, Graham's story, and how we deal with it. And I think we're overwhelmed many times, aren't we? But again, we were never into like accumulating sums of money. We just wanted to make money to give to the charity. And we've been truly blessed by the amount of people who continue to give and give generously. And even like, even when we were in the village there at the party, you know, people seeing the Beatson cancer, great charity. And it was notes. You weren't getting coins, you were getting notes. And that is inspirational, you know. And again, for the wonderful work that the Beatson do, and again with this new Beatson and the brain tumour research, we are in awe of people who are so... Anthony Chalmers is so desperate to find a cure. And hopefully they will. Well, listen, might not be in our time, but hopefully still Graham's legacy.
And you're helping towards that, and Graham's been a massive part of that as well. And he said, you're in awe. I'm in awe genuinely of the two of you, your strength and everything you have done to help others and your family. And as I say, to keep Graham's memory alive so beautifully is just incredible. So thank you so much for all you do, and thank you so much for sharing your story. And you're just amazing.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
If you or someone you know is affected by cancer and needs support or advice, then visit beatsoncancercharity.org.